Welcome to Super Fun Game Review Podcast Go. A look at modern and retro games with a dark sense of humor. Introducing your hosts, Steve.
Well, I'm a wreck now.
Harry.
Put it in my mouth.
Clark.
That man had one testicle and hit home runs, goddammit.
And Joe.
This went off the rails very quickly.
Let's start the show.
All right. Welcome back to another episode of Super Fun Game Review Podcast. Go! Go!
No, go.
All right. Before we get into the episode, this episode is brought to you by Deep Creek Glassworks. Deep Creek Glassworks has been making hand-blown, durable glass works of art since 2013. Ornaments, glassware, and much more. Deep Creek Glassworks has you covered. Can't find something that tickles your fancy? Just ask. I personally have some beer glasses and some ornaments, and they are absolutely amazing. And just for our listeners, you'll receive 10% off your first order when using our promo code SUPERFUN. All orders are shipped in crust-resistant boxes and with free shipping. That's right, free. So show your love for small business and visit deepcreekglassworks.com. Check out their Instagram and Etsy. Works spelled WORX today.
Today.
Yesterday. Ah, shit.
Before we move any further, haven't had one of these little fuckers in a while, but we have an iTunes review.
All right, get to it.
All right, so this is a 5-star review.
5. Count it.
This is submitted by Jared D1124, and it is titled Amazing. If you're into
Butt
games
stuff. This is the podcast for you.
If you're into games, it's a must listen. I love listening to the podcast at work and at home, and the hilarious group of guys makes me feel like I'm in the room with them as they talk about some of my favorite games. Amazing. Sorry, that was tough to read. It was all one long sentence, so it was really hard to
You are in the room.
Thank you.
Yes, thank you for the 5-star review.
Appreciate it.
Much
Shout out to
appreciated.
you.
Much
It's been a year.
It has been a year, that is for sure. To my left, I have Harry.
I've got a carnival ticket.
To my other left, I have Steve.
Dude, you want a hit of this bone pipe?
Fuck.
Come on.
To my other left, I have Joe.
I'm a blacksmith.
He did the thing.
And I'll be your host this evening, Clark. Ha ha! This isn't a very quotable game, but we are going to be reviewing For the King tonight. So let's jump right into initial impressions. Who wants to kick us off?
I'll kick us off.
All right.
I knew absolutely nothing about this game, and then I saw the still of it sitting in the Steam store, and I'm like, okay, this is interesting, character models and whatnot, little blocky-ish, and then started getting into it a bit. I'm like, this is different. I think that's going to be a reoccurring word for me tonight. Like, it's different.
It is definitely a different kind of game. I'll go. So this is the game that I had picked for us to review, and I hadn't heard of it until former co-host Hamill had brought it to my attention, and I started playing online with him, and I just immediately kind of fell for everything. Like, I really like roguelikes, and I kind of like what it had going for it with the RPG elements. And also turn-based combat. I always a fan, and the systems are actually rather deep from what I initially thought the game was going to be. So all in all, I was pleasantly surprised. All right, what about you, Harry?
So I know you guys got pretty hardcore into this. I think it was you, Hamill, and Kyle. I just saw hopping on this almost every night for a little while there. No, I was interested. I watched the trailer a couple times. I didn't initially pick this up. I just didn't have the extra time for it, but since you brought it up for the podcast, definitely forced into checking it out. So there's that. Initially, I had a tough time getting into this game.
How about you, Joe?
Yeah, I didn't hear of it until you recommended it for the podcast. You may have briefly mentioned it to me once prior to that, but I didn't really pay much attention to it, to be honest with you. And like Steve said, I pretty much went to the Steam store, kind of watched the trailer, and started digging into it. There were definitely some parts of this game that reminds me of other games, but it's kind of caught me off guard with its uniqueness for the most part.
So let's move into game development.
Game development.
So I did find some stuff. It launched in 2018. It was initially a Kickstarter project and launched into initially Steam and Good Old Games. And it was built using the Unity engine. Outside of that, this is some pretty hard to find information about this studio. And
it was Iron Oak Studio, right?
Yeah, it was Iron Oak was the developer, and it was published by Iron Oak as well.
Yeah, so that's a really small company from my understanding. It's really hard to even just find information on them. So it very well could be a few guys that just kind of worked on this. Either way, I think for it being like a Kickstarter game and stuff like that, it's super polished. I didn't find tons of bugs or anything like that. I'd be curious to actually know more about the game, but it's really hard to find stuff on it.
Yeah, the comment about the bugs, they have been putting out patches pretty regularly. It's been out for 3 years. I think I started, poking at this game about a month ago, and just in that time alone, there's been, on PSC at least, 3 bug-related patch fixes. So they're still pushing them out pretty regularly. Even, non-major releases, they're still, getting them out when they can and if needed.
That's always good to see.
They pump out a bunch of free DLC as well.
Yeah.
Like all those game modes and stuff. I had the game probably 2 years ago. I really started playing it though, within the last 6 months. And all those extra game modes and stuff, that's all kind of new. Campaigns and stuff that you can do in the game. So they're just pumping stuff out for this, which I think is really cool. They're not really asking for a ton of money either. It's a relatively cheap game. All right. Do we want to move into story?
Story.
Let's hear the synopsis.
The king has been murdered. The queen asks a group of ragtag misfits to band together to solve the mystery. There is an evil presence lurking in the corners of Farrell called the Scourge, and at its peak sits the Vexer, a wicked magician that is the center of the plot. In a castle only accessible by airship, you defeat the foe, but are lost in the ensuing explosion while statues are erected in your honor. The story is very bare bones. That's one thing. It's a roguelike, so essentially they're kind of your gameplay experiences are the story itself. There's not a lot to discuss in the story here. I would love to see more story, but that's for the king, the main campaign. That's pretty much front to back. That's kind of what you get. You're given quests to go to different areas, and as you go to the areas and do the main quests, you just unlock more and more stuff to do, and then eventually you get the airship, and then you go fight the wizard.
The
That's
wicked wizard. You hear about that wizard?
The wicked wizard.
He's pretty wicked.
The wicked wizard.
Now go get the car. We're going to see the wizard. Yeah, not a whole lot.
Yeah, no, not really. The story, I be honest with you, I didn't get through the whole thing. I was checking out kind of a lot of different stuff in this game, but I spent a couple hours into it, and it just like you said, it was very bare bones. It's go here, kill this guy. Go here, kill this guy. It seemed very much like. So, I mean, I didn't, and kind of gets into gameplay, but I found some of the other modes much more entertaining than the story mode.
Yeah, some of the other modes in this are really cool, like the Dungeon Delvers, where you have to go liberate 5 dungeons, or the one that's like all about going out on the ocean and exploring the like a giant ocean map. Like that's really cool. Yeah, this is a fun one. I wish if we had maybe gotten more time that we could have actually like played together. That would have been like really fun.
That would have
That's
been
the way to
cool.
do it, because you can
Yeah.
each take a character and then you're just like, you're sharing loot, splitting gold, things like that. Like it's really awesome. I wish we would have gotten more of that, because I feel like some of the better qualities of the game come out when you're playing multiple things and you have more roles to fill.
Gotcha.
I could see that. They did definitely give you a good amount of variety to kind of to get into like different ways of playing and whatnot.
Oh, for sure.
Yeah.
Does anyone else have anything on story? We could probably roll right into gameplay, which is like the meat of this game, I think.
Yeah, I've got nothing over here.
The only thing I would say, I don't know if there's something there. The unlockables are called lore, more or less, and I don't know if
the
there's
lore
anything
books.
there. Like, yeah, exactly. I don't know. It's just probably the word that they chose, but I wonder.
Yeah,
if
it could have been called anything.
yeah, okay.
Lore was probably one of the worst things they could have picked, because there
Yes.
was no lore associated with it.
All right.
Exactly. Yeah, there's a bunch of stuff like that. It's like, oh, okay, well, you didn't really. There's no lore here. It's really just a store for it.
Okay, speaking on that, the terminology in general in this game threw me off quite a few times, and it might come out more in gameplay.
Okay.
All right, boner.
Yeah.
For people who don't know, there's an enemy that's just called boner. You can't
There
help
is,
but
and you can
giggle.
engage the boner.
Yeah, gotta go and attack that.
Gotta
boner.
watch out for that sneak attack boner.
Sneak attack boner is very dangerous.
It really can be,
especially at low levels.
Yeah.
Usually illegal too.
Early on.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Sneak attack boner fucking wrecked him.
I saw where you were going with that, Harry. You're on a list.
All right, yeah, let's get into gameplay.
Gameplay.
Let's start with characters. What characters did you guys play? What characters did you guys take with you? Did you hate any of them? Did you like any of them? Specific things like that. Let's start with that.
All right, just a general disclaimer. I think it's very, very important in this game to have a balanced party. At least my
100%.
experience with, just because. So each class, more or less, has a specific attribute stat where they can interact with the environment in certain ways, whether it be searching, looting, bashing, and the skill check is based off of that one stat. So it's good to have characters that focus on different stats, so when you come across these opportunities, you have an advantageous character that can go against it. But not only that, there are certain enemies that are resistant to magic damage or physical damage, and it's good to have characters that can dish out different types of damage or ignore some of that or stun enemy. Like there's different aspects of combat that I think you need to have a well-rounded party for as well.
Yeah.
Just by initial experience, I just saw that as a pretty crucial element to this game.
Oh, for sure, yeah. Having a balanced party, having one of I think there's 2 or 3 characters that can do the party heal right off the bat is like huge, because then you can just kind of like siphon all of your healing herbs to them. Like you constantly give them all your healing herbs, and then they'll do party heals for you, which is like super, super important to.
Oh yeah, that's huge right there.
Yeah. There's another way to actually do that, which I thought was kind of cool with items. You can like equip certain things. Like you can have one person like level up their pipe or upgrade their pipe all the way. And then you get this thing called a diffuser, and it gives them the ability party heal. So there are items that you can kind of give everybody to like give them that established thing. And they kind of make it so that you can really play however you want. Like you can go in with a bunch of bruisers, and then you can have like lock picks and like some of the sneakier like trap stuff as items to get through it, which is kind of interesting.
Yeah, coming back, they just give you a whole variety of different ways to play the game, and I think that it is something where it's coming back to. Here's the first time using the word again. It's different. a lot of times in some of these games, you only have certain characters that can use certain things, and you can kind of feel like limited almost in other games. But this really kind of like it expands to like a whole different, I don't know, like a whole different level in what's the word I'm looking for?
It like pushes you in one direction to have like a party build.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I guess for lack of better words, yeah, it's pretty much getting down to what I was looking for there.
So speaking of party build, I was really pissed when I first started this game because during like I was like, okay, let me get into the story, and it only let me add one character to my party. Like,
Yeah, you were telling us about that.
Yeah, so I picked Hunter, and then like I started playing it, and I played it for a while, figuring I would come across people as I played or whatever, and just had no help at all, just getting decimated. And then as soon as I started the next mission, it like auto populated the other two people. Like, so you couldn't not have three people. I was like, what the hell is this? I didn't understand how that happened, but that was very frustrating for me to start this game and made me really not want to play it.
I'm sure.
That's completely fair. Yeah, I don't know how that happened. Did you guys have any like favorite characters? Did you guys play with multiple characters? Did you only play with one set group? Anything like that?
I played with a bunch of classes. I played with like the archer or ranger. I forget what they called it.
I think that's the hunter.
Hunter, yeah. And then the blacksmith. Oh my God, the minstrel.
I love the minstrel. I think the minstrel is like it's easily one of my favorite characters.
And there was another one I played with too.
The scholar,
the one that used a book.
Yeah, the scholar.
Yeah, the mage essentially.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm. It's pretty much the three
so
that
those are the ones I used.
Yeah, I kind of stuck with the blacksmith, hunter, and scholar. I mean, it worked out because there was some where it like couldn't be the physical attacks, so then you had the scholar to hit them with the magic, or vice versa and whatnot. So you can kind of go back
or whatever.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I think I was having the most fun with the hunter, just like some of the other abilities, though it was pretty cool even just with the scholar. It just new little things would pop up. It's like, oh, well, you can do this. And then every time you get like a different item, there'd be a different attribute that you might be able to use. And like, oh, okay, now it's really time to start messing around with some of this stuff. So that I thought that was pretty cool. And especially when you started getting into like the different weapons and the different elemental damages, and that could get frustrating, but that's also why you don't have your entire party with like fire damage or something like that, because then you're just going to back yourself into a corner,
right? Or you keep multiple weapons that you can like switch and equip
yeah
at certain turns. When I beat the game, I should say we, because it was me and Hamill that actually beat the game. We had a minstrel. I was playing a hunter and he was playing a monk, and so like the monk was the healer, the minstrel was doing the magic damage, and the hunter was doing the physical damage. And you think about that and you're like, oh well, there's no like real like melee guy. Like the monk was actually both dealing tons of damage like melee and also the party healer, which was really interesting. It's just a cool thing to think about. Like there's like multiple facets to each job that they can do. Like the minstrel at times, one of the minstrel's like best abilities is like he will randomly at the end of battles play a song and gain coin. So he will constantly just throughout the game just gain like, at the end of the turn or the end of a battle, it was completely random, but he's like, oh, here's 6 coin, here's 8 coin, and like that shit adds up. He do that 10 times, you're getting like some of the best weapons in the game. It was always like a really, really awesome thing. And he's just like, oh, haha. And he like spin around and play his lute. And like, just like all of a sudden, everyone gets like 6 coins.
Yeah. Kind of going back to what you were saying before, I think this game would have done much better, or I would have probably enjoyed it better if one of the starting classes was the healing class. The fact that I had to play like 7 hours just to unlock the healing class, which wasn't depicted in the game as like a healing class.
Are you talking about the herbalist?
Yeah.
Okay.
That was
Yeah.
kind of brutal to just punish myself for hours on just spending money on consumables to not die. And constantly running back to town to rest or that kind of thing. If I had an herbalist, it would have been much more enjoyable.
To that though, like you find I think the pipe diffuser starts dropping after the second city that you go to, and I think in the third city it's available for purchase, which is what gives party heal. So they all have pipes, and then so whoever has the highest pipe, you just give them the party diffuser or the pipe diffuser, and then they have party heal.
But that's only attainable through the story, you're saying?
No, that's in most modes.
Okay.
Most modes, like the second or third city that you get to, you start. I think it's after you get the second pipe, or like that can be sold to you.
Right.
You can find it. It's one of those weird things that like if you're not looking for it, you don't see it. But like I don't know how many hours I've put into this game, but I would probably say it's upwards of 40 or 50. I've done several runs of this. Like I really just, it's a very relaxing game because of like the turn-based, everything's turn-based, which I think is we were talking about that I think on one of the mubbers or one of the other episodes that like we don't get a lot of really good turn-based games anymore, and I think this is up there as a really good turn-based game, and it's modern. We can get more into like the what the game looks like in a little bit. I have a bunch of stuff to say about that, but I was gonna say, so we talked about characters. Did you guys have any like monsters or anything like that you really struggled with?
The Kraken fucked me up. I'm
Dude.
currently stranded on an island, and then the only way off is to use that teleport stone, which permanently reduces your stats. That's kind of where I rage quit last.
Okay.
I was kind of pissed about that.
Is there not a boat place there?
On the 3 like pixel sized island.
Oh, you took a 3 hexagon
really
island.
Wrecked, huh?
Oh yeah. I almost killed it too. It was like that frustrates me. Like I was tearing through him because I think I was a level or 2 above the Kraken, and he had a shit ton of health.
Yeah,
but like all his attacks were like focusing on my little raft, and like after a couple whops of that, it's just like I don't know.
Yeah, the ship combat in that is kind of interesting because you can damage either the people on the ship, because if you're going around enough, you'll find like pirates and things like that you can attack. You can just destroy their ship and they'll all die. You don't have to fight them, which I thought was kind of interesting. Okay, so it was the Kraken for you. What about you guys, Steve, Joe?
I'll be honest with you, man. I I didn't really enjoy it. So at pretty much anything, not having the healing thing pissed me off the entire time I played this game. Like honestly, I did not have fun.
Fair enough.
I liked a lot of the game. If I would have had a healer, I would have played many, many, many more hours.
Have you unlocked the healer now?
I just got enough lore to unlock it tonight. But I'm in the middle of a game, so it's like, do I just stop playing this campaign so I could unlock the herbalist and start completely over from scratch? Or do I just keep playing until I get game over?
Well, yeah, it's like, a roguelike. So I want to clarify too. Like you're not supposed to beat the game on your first try, and you're not going to. They right. Even like say all of that. Like there is like when you boot the game up, they were like, look, this game is not meant to be beaten on the first try. It's not meant to just like run through it. You will die. It will happen, like stuff like that. So
yeah, they do give you that disclaimer like right off the bat. It's like, hey,
yeah,
you're probably going to die.
Yeah, they were like, this is a difficult type of game for first timers with roguelikes.
Let me speak on that real quick, if you don't mind.
Because
that's a minor issue I had. They market it as a roguelike, but this, like, each playthrough is insanely long for like roguelike in quotes. Like I thought this was going to be like hour or two per playthrough. The current playthrough I'm on, I'm like 7 or 8 hours deep. That just doesn't feel roguelike to me. Like,
I mean, it's a different type of game. Like, honestly, of roguelikes, there's not much like this. It's not one of the card building ones, and it's not one of the single player like Metrovania games where you're like just like running through caverns, and it's kind of like, you know, Metroid or Castlevania where you die and then you respawn as a new character. Things like that.
it's just, I guess with like a really short run through, let's say a run through took like an hour, whether you pass or die. You don't feel, I guess, as bad when you die or get defeated, because it's like, oh, it's just an hour. It was just a normal playthrough. If you get defeated after like a 10-hour playthrough, that's like a like a mental defeat in a way. It just it hurts a little bit.
Yeah.
It does. Like, I probably had, I think, 3 or 4 full like real close playthroughs before I before I finally beat the game. And what is nice though is if you're constantly like doing what they're asking you to do, when you die and you go back and then you look at the lore shop, you're like, oh cool, I can get 2 new characters, like 5 new items, and like I feel like that spices up the next run just enough that it's different. I think that would have been the big fail if you're getting far enough that you're wasting time. Like, if you die after a 7 or 8 hour run and you don't have enough lore to at least unlock a new character to try or get some items or something like that, like, you weren't sticking to what the game's trying to get you to do as like the main attraction for that specific campaign.
So that's my exact gripe for not having a healer, because I felt like I was playing 90 minutes and gaining nothing. And I would literally afford nothing, have to start over, do the exact same thing I did, and basically get to the same points. And it was, you know, I was doing the same thing without earning anything.
Were you going to cities and like buying all of the God's Beard and stuff?
Like the healing items?
Yeah.
I only found that out from looking online, because I started looking at strategies to help me last longer. Because I was just like working off of drops, maybe.
I was gonna let it go.
I mean, longer.
I had
Harry's emails just wrecked. Penis enlargement pills and extends for the king.
No, but
For
like I
this
said,
kid.
I had to just basically stock up on healing items to like not die. And I felt like every time I got to a town, they would have all of the weapons for the classes I wasn't currently playing. So I would get to a town and be like, cool, nothing here for me. And I'd be like, all right, I guess I'll just fill up on healing items because I can't get anything else, and then get as far as I could.
I will say one thing, not to argue against you, Joe, on this, but I had a quick run through just to mess around with the game. I did change like the stats of the game, like you can customize
Changing the difficulty.
Not well, in a way. I mean, there is like the different difficulties, but then you could set certain things. I think like the one was like altering like how long it would take the scourges to activate, or stuff like that. Like if one particular aspect of the game is giving you trouble, fucking
I looked at that and I thought I remember it saying that it would give you less lore.
It would. It does.
Which
like,
would
just by
defeated
altering
the
it.
whole purpose for me. Because I was like, I just need to get enough lore to get a fucking healer. And if I bump that down, I have to play even longer. So I was like, catch 22, I felt like.
The incentive just wasn't there for you to do it. But
it wasn't.
The game shouldn't need a healer, though. I'm not saying I didn't need a healer or anything. I'm just saying, like, you should be able to build a party of any 3 characters. In my opinion.
Can.
I didn't feel
Here's
like that.
Thing. You totally can. You just have to get 3 or 4 hours into the campaign. I feel
I
like.
couldn't get that far. I was like constantly like I said, I was getting like 90 minutes to 2 hours before I would get game over. I wasn't getting close enough to get anywhere close to
Were you
having a
leveling
party
and
heal.
healing in towns as well?
I had to.
Okay.
Like to the point where I had no money.
See, that is also. Speaking of
That's
money,
a problem.
if you don't mind, there's an inflation meter through this game. Like as you're progressing, things get more and more expensive too. I do have a real issue with that one, honestly. Like I get what they're going for. They want to try to keep this even, like that you can't like bank a bunch of money to make it easier for you later in the
Sure.
game.
I don't think I necessarily played enough of the game to really see that. Like, does it really like jump up from where, like, you know, some of the first towns where you can buy a god spell for what?
I
Like,
mean, it's gradual. I think it's more based on your level.
gotcha.
Or
Yeah,
where you're at.
it's 100% based on your level. And when I beat the game, I think Godsbeard was 45 gold instead of 15.
Oh, okay.
And I was level 33 and 34, I think,
Gotcha.
when we beat the game. So yeah, it goes up with your level. I do get like the I don't know. I feel like that's part of the challenge though too. Like it's not going to be, you know, the thing is you're also leveling up your pipe. If you're not leveling up your pipe, you're not doing healing correctly either.
I saw that. Sorry, another thing. I'm sorry. I just keep thinking of these things that I just want to yell out before I
There you go.
completely forget about them. Talking about the healing again. So I had the scholar, and I had I forget what item I equipped her with, but it had an ability on it that sounded like a healing ability, and I kept using it. It said something like, it was like recover, or it might have even said cure. I forget what it said. And I was like, oh yeah, I'll get health points back by using this. I think all it did was take away status effects, if you know what I'm referring to.
It was more like a cleanse.
Yeah, something like that. But it
That's
sound like their wording. This is what I was talking about before. Some of their
Restore?
terminology. Maybe that's restore. That does sound familiar. Doesn't that sound like something that would give you health points back?
It's refocus.
No, that doesn't sound right.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, if I were to hear restored, I would think it would be a healing property, which I guess in a certain sense it is.
It is.
But,
Yeah, I think it would just take away, like if you're burning or
right.
something like that. I think it would just take away that status effect.
Some of the wording in the game could use some work for sure.
I didn't like how you had to do a turn for each player. Me playing single player, I would have liked the whole party to just travel at the same time. It was
Gotcha.
tedious
The
doing each
movement.
character.
Yeah.
I didn't want to separate them at all. Like it was just too risky.
Yeah, that was the thing. Like, because I would be like, oh, well, only one needs to heal. Let me just throw that one back to town real quick. But at the same time, I couldn't just take the other two guys and battle something because I felt like as soon as I lost one, I was just way too weak.
No. I mean, a lot of the time, I basically had them roam in a pack, or at least close enough, so that way, if you had an encounter, I did find like the encounter system was pretty different in itself too. It's like you could be a couple grids away and still be able to attack this one thing, but then if you're not paying attention, it might draw another one or two things in at the same time, like just based off of where the hexagons and how far
radius.
Yeah, exactly. But I did think
Yeah,
that
it was like field of view or something. Like I forget what they called it, but like because at night it's smaller, and like there's certain areas that have like a fog, and when you do that, like that gets to only like 2 tiles, so it gets really dangerous in those areas. I think there's like a poison swamp where there's like a lot of like mist and shit.
Yeah, I found myself not using most of my movement half the time.
Yeah, and then you just gain back your HP at the end of the turn slowly.
Yeah, basically.
Yeah.
I'd be like, oh, I got 5 movement. Well, let me move like 4. Because if somebody else gets like no movement, then I'm going to get screwed.
Right. I'm curious about the multiplayer aspect. Like when you're playing with other people, are you just like choosing a character from your current game to join in, or are you starting at like level 1? How does that work with
You start a fresh campaign with somebody, and
Oh,
then you
okay.
both just play that campaign. So anytime you go online, that's the campaign that you play
That's pretty
until it's
sweet.
over. Yeah, it's really cool. Like Kyle, Hamill, and myself all have like we still have like a current game, and you just go in. You can reselect your character. What's nice is if I'm like, oh fuck it, I don't feel like playing the minstrel, but we have two other characters, I could just be like, hey Kyle, let me play the hunter or something like that, and you can actually switch who controls what.
Oh, okay.
Party
It's pretty
makeup's
cool.
the same, but you're not necessarily controlling the same character.
Correct. Yeah,
Oh,
you can
neat.
switch characters like that.
That's interesting.
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
Speaking on parties again, real quick. I know I was touching on the stats earlier. Now you can technically equip any weapon to any character, at least what I've seen,
Yeah.
but it's not the smart way to go. You tend to want to, like Hunter, you want to do I think it was
The bow.
the eye. No, I did a pike with my Hunter. It was anything that had the eye symbol.
Oh,
Yeah,
the
it's
awareness.
based on skill. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's skill
that's
based.
right.
So you just got to kind of remember that, and like that. If you could max out, well, not I guess you can't max it out, but if you could really get that's what changes the percentages of you landing some of your moves in combat as well.
Mhm.
Because we didn't even talk about the focus points that you have on your character, where you get these charges when you rest that are they're a short supply, I will say, and you got to choose when you want to use these, but they add additional percentages on top of what your base percentage is to make
It's guaranteed successes. You cash them in for guaranteed successes too.
yeah
If you want to spend enough of them in one shot. I mean,
Right.
there's so many different things that you could spend those points on. I mean, you can spend it in battle itself if you're attacking something, if you're opening a chest or a lock or trying to dodge a trap. Even just like the random encounters when like you're out in the field, it's like, oh, you come across this well. Do you want to drink the water? And it's like, here's your percentages, whether it like heals you for 15, heals you for 5, does nothing.
Kills one of your party members.
Yeah, exactly. And it's like you can mess around with the stats a little bit, and sometimes you're just like, I don't really feel like spending one, so let's roll the dice. You're poisoned. Ah, shit.
Go low.
Yeah.
Yeah. Ah, fuck.
Some of those skill checks like even had an option where you just die.
Yep. Yeah.
I was like, yikes.
Yeah.
Let's bump it up
it's-
until that one says 0% on.
Yeah, really?
Oh yeah. You always want to save some focus for those. What was cool was the hunter eventually can get a gun, and it does like massive amounts of damage. It'll like if you target like the center, it'll hit the center and then do splash damage to the other enemies. And you can guarantee a hit by using a focus like every time.
Wow.
Because the next round you actually have to reload the gun. So
Oh.
it's like lots of damage.
Your next
Just
turn is just reloading.
reload.
Yeah, you can
Or you
stab
can-
with
or
it.
you
It
can-
has like a
Yeah, you can pistol whip.
Yeah, he just run up.
I put that on my hunter, and he had a really high initiative. I could usually jump into battle and just kill an enemy that I don't want to fight right away.
Yeah.
So it's not like a high tiered enemy, but like any like mid tier to like low tier, just blap one less enemy right off the bat.
Especially
Right.
if you see one that you know that your party will struggle with, even if it isn't a high level, you're just like, I just don't feel like dealing with you.
It's just
And-
less
and-
damage coming my way.
And
Yeah,
naturally,
really.
I had like a 98% success rate. Like I decided not to use focus on that. That's close enough to 100.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
It's like, I should be good with this. There is. So you want to say about enemies that frustrate, I'll just say with anything with the status where whether it's like especially in the beginning, like it can only be hit with
the
a
perfect attacks.
Perfect attack, yeah. And it's like especially
That
like when you
motherfucker.
have something like those, and I remember going into one of the dungeons and there was like a couple of them in the row. It's like I'm not going to spend all of my fucking focus just to try to kill one thing
Right.
when I know there's like 3 more waves coming right behind it. It's like that was a pain in the ass. That was something where a little bit of trial and error in the beginning for like the dungeons too. Just like when you're just you got to go.
Dungeons are really dangerous in the game. You really have to be like equipped and ready to go into a dungeon and like not come out for a while.
Yeah.
One of the enemies that really pissed me off and was always like, I must kill them before they do this attack. There's gelatinous cubes in the game.
Ugh.
Yeah.
And they will dissolve a piece of equipment like 3 or 4 turns into the round. If you don't kill them quickly enough, they'll just jump on you and they'll dissolve one random piece of
You're
equipment.
like, oh, no more help.
Really?
Yeah, but like I had it do it to this one like lore unlocked item that was like, oh, it's like 20% extra to every single resistance in the game. It was like red, it was like super rare.
Yeah.
And it jumped on it and just blew it up. I was like, what the fuck? Are you fucking kidding me? And like it doesn't come back. It's gone.
It's gone.
It's
Bye.
gone.
Bye, Felicia.
There's some like I forget if they're smugglers or bandits or something like that. Their first attack, and they usually have pretty high initiative. They'll just steal all your gold off a character.
Yeah, it's like, you son of a bitch. You know how long it took me to get that shit?
Yeah, and some of them are quick enough that they'll get it and then run away.
Yeah.
Well, even if you kill them, you don't get like any of it back anyway.
Well, I think you do.
You do.
And the problem is, I'd always I
had like 35 gold taken one time, and I got like after I killed everything, I got like 10, which was basically what you get anyway.
Well, at least what I experienced when you kill those, they give you 2 stacks of gold. It's like the normal gold for winning, and then the gold you retrieve. But you're talking about 35 that you're losing. Try like 350 or 400.
Yeah. Jesus.
It's just like Christ.
All right, let's move into graphics.
Graphics.
So
It's a more rendered third-person Minecraft.
What? Not even close to voxel.
Really?
No, I know it's just the blockiness just kind of threw me a little bit. What's that?
I'd say it's more papercraft.
Yeah, I could go with that.
I kind of liked it. I thought it looked kind of like a digital claymation. I kind of dug the look of it.
Yeah, like I thought it was like papercraft or like origami. Was how it reminded me of.
I think this is my least impressive category on this game. I did not like the art direction in this game whatsoever.
Really?
I think it looked very cartoony, and some environments just look way too cluttered as well. Like if you want to go for like this simple art style, that's fine, but then don't throw like a bunch of bullshit in the arena as well. I don't know. It was just very distracting at times. I don't know. It just felt chaotic and a lot going on. And over like the world map, like I had to like zoom in and out a lot of times just to like see what am I looking at
like
here.
Some tiles you couldn't tell like whether there was stuff on it or if it was something from a tile next to it. With like tall grass and stuff like that, I couldn't tell sometimes whether it was like on the tile or the tile below.
I had an issue too, like you see the little head of some kind of scourge coming down on your meter at the top.
Mm-hmm.
Like they wouldn't like they should have had like some kind of indicator on the world map, because the amount of times where I've cleared out a lot of the fog and then I see this little head coming down the meter and I'm like, well, where is this coming from? And then I just spent all this time going through the whole world map trying to find whatever building is about to activate or something
5
like
spaces
that.
at a time.
And I'm looking, basically I have to like hover over the building to see what the picture of the scourge is in that building and say, does that little head match the head at the top of the screen? So I like it should have been glowing or something, like it's about to activate. I don't know, something.
Fair enough. So you guys did not like the UI.
Yeah, the UI I didn't like. I didn't mind the art direction as far as like the characters and the battle and things like that. The UI was funky though. I don't know how the hell you guys played on fucking console. Because like you were like, oh yeah, I played on PlayStation. So I initially was like, okay, controller game. Booted it up, and it kind of goes back to gameplay. I tried to play with controller, and I was like, "There's no fucking way.
No.
I'm just using a mouse. This is so much easier."
Yeah, the control scheme is a little wonky for sure. I personally did not have the same problems, but I was also playing with somebody that had already beaten the game, so or not beaten the game, had done a lot of yeah, it was a lot easier for me, I think, because I had just played with someone who had played it before.
Yeah, you had a live tutorial. It's like, how do I do this? This is what you press. Awesome. No, I was with Joe with the mouse and keyboard. It's I think
you don't even need the keyboard.
Well, no, but
which was, in my opinion, the best part. It was just like, okay,
click, click,
mouse game,
click. I can do
RTS,
that
basically.
But I mean, that converted over to I don't know, a controller. I didn't even try it. I'm like, I'm not even going to bother with that. This works for me as it is right now. No need to. I'm not going to fix it if it ain't broken for me. Some of the characters look neat. That's I'll give it that. That's about as far as it went for me. It's, to me,
Fair
nothing
enough.
to really shake a stick at.
All right, let's move into sound.
Audio.
Let's move into audio.
Audio.
I like the little overworld music and stuff like that. I don't think it's anything super remarkable. I think it's good ambient music. It does get stuck in my head. I can think of the town theme right now. The but
Are you shipping up to Boston?
That's what I heard.
It almost it does kind of sound like that. It's just medieval, but
shipping up to Boston to see that wicked wizard.
The wicked wizard. But yeah, I there's not a lot other than just the ambient music to really comment on. Ha! I think it's just an okay average job. I think I don't think the music's bad, in my opinion.
To me, it's there. It's I'm not overwhelmed by it. I won't really say I'm underwhelmed. Honestly, I just really didn't. There wasn't too much to pay attention to. It was just there.
The loot
I didn't
sound
pay attention
effect,
to the sound at all, other than coins.
The loot sound effects, that one's stuck in my head. Whether it be enemy or even when you kind of whiff on a little solo, it's just you just hear the strings getting picked. There's a boing boing.
Oh, did you make it? Did anyone make it to the skeletons that have the guitars that are electric guitars?
Yeah. They do the shock attacks.
Yeah, no. I thought that was kind of cool. It's just you're listening to all this medieval loot music, and then all of a sudden you come across these skeletons. They're yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. That was a nice little touch.
Yeah, it's fun.
I came across those almost right away in the one, the dungeon crawling mode.
Yeah, they're a pretty popular enemy later on. Let's pluck our way into final thoughts.
Final thoughts.
All right, Harry. Final thoughts. Go.
Final thoughts. My initial playthrough, we're trailing back in for my initial impression.
hey, we're coming full circle now.
So my initial run through was trash. It was real bad. I did not have a good time. I thought this was an absurdly uphill battle, and I just did not understand the mechanics of the game, certain strategies you should go for. I didn't understand the whole stat system. I didn't understand anything, because I think that has something to do with how terrible the tutorial is in this game. Because it's all menu reading, I feel, and who's gonna do that? Not this guy.
They didn't explain a lot of that shit anyway.
Well, so then I read a couple articles explaining some things in the game. what a general layout of like the For the King campaign looks like, strategies with the items, how to get around the inflation amount. Like, so I did a little bit of research on strategizing for the game, and I think I had a much better playthrough on my second playthrough up until the Kraken. Then I kind of hit a wall, and that's kind of where I left off, which was kind of disappointing because I was kind of steamrolling the second time. So yeah, I guess final impression, I'm kind of sitting wishy-washy. I could see the potential now, but was my experience amazing? Probably not. It was just lukewarm. But maybe if I keep at it, maybe it'll get progressively better. Kind of verdict is still out. For I guess at least another minute, and then I gotta kind of think.
All right, Steve.
It's first getting into it. I'm like, I don't think this is like my kind of game. After a little bit more time, getting more comfortable with it, it started coming around a bit, but I still wasn't really. I wasn't really like super pulled in. I think maybe going down the multiplayer avenue of like playing with friends and kind of having like a different way, or kind of like how you did, Clark, playing with someone who's played for a while can kind of change the way I would play it or have me look at it a little differently, which I'm open to do. I'm open to try that out and see, if that is, a little more fun for me. But past that, unless I'm going to give it a shot playing with some friends, I don't know if I would necessarily I don't know if I would boot this game back up again or not.
All right, Joe, what do you got?
Just gonna comment real quick on what I'm observing for these final thoughts. The only reason you guys would like this game is playing with an experienced player or playing from a strategy guide. That's the only way you guys are playing this game. So that being said, my final thoughts on this, like I said, I would have had more fun if give me a healer to begin with. If you're gonna like make it such a big part of the game, I would have rather had a healer and the game be more difficult than have to manage gold and items and truck my way through to get this, 4 hours into it before I can actually get a party heal, because it's way less to manage if I just have somebody with a skill. Even if it was like a weaker like thing, just give me something. Because I spent so much gold on that at some points, I couldn't even rest in towns. Like, it was like a double-edged sword.
Go sleep in the streets, you bum.
Yeah, no, like yeah, no. My final thoughts on this game are, I think the starting characters are not the starting characters that should be in this game.
Joe unlocked the hobo class.
All right, the busker. That's what the busker is. It's pretty much a hobo.
No,
he like begs for change.
Class,
it's funny. All right, my final thoughts on the game are: I just had a different experience than you guys. I put more time into the game. So yes, it's not the most approachable game right at the beginning, and yes, it's tough to kind of get a handle on the game right at the beginning. You will die and things like that. However, I think there's a learning curve, and once you get past the learning curve, it's a very, very enjoyable game. All right, let's move into the scores.
The score.
Harry, what you got?
I'm gonna go kind of right down the middle on this one. I'm gonna give it a 5.0. So I didn't have a stellar experience, but I can see the potential there. Especially, I like games with tons of unlockables, and this game does have it.
It does.
That is right up your alley.
How about you, Joe?
Just the look on his face with the sigh.
Yeah, I mean, there are a lot of aspects of this game I really liked. I really wanted to enjoy this. I'm going to give it like a 45. If I would have had a healer, it would probably be like upper 70s. I probably would have enjoyed it that much more. Like, honestly.
Fair enough. Mr. Steve?
Keeping with the right along with the theme, I'm going to have to give this a C. Like I said, get in, try it with some other people. That may bump up. I have a feeling that it would. But for the experience I had thus far, C.
Fair enough. I've had the most experiences with this game, so for me it's a buy. I think it's totally worth it, especially for the price point. I don't think it's a super expensive game. If it's a $60 game, I would not suggest this for a lot of people. All right. So
Very well.
Yeah, that wraps up For the King. Join us in 2 weeks for a Mubbers, and stay lovely.
Stay sexy.
Love you guys.
Stay safe.
Thanks for listening. Be sure to follow us on social media and all streaming platforms at Superfun Podcast for more episodes. If you enjoyed the show, tell a friend about us and consider becoming a Patreon member for more exclusive content.